So English is encoded as XHC2 for gate. For paper 1, that is your GA, General Aptitude, there will be total 10 questions of 15 marks. The marks distribution is like 5 questions will have 1 mark each, and another 5 questions will be there for 2 marks each. This is for paper 1, that is General Aptitude GA, just like you have in UGC-NET or PhD entrance tests of paper 1. However, it is only for 15 marks in GATE. Now let's come to English, which is your core subject, and for English there will be 85 marks and you have to attempt 65 questions in total. Means there will be questions based on options as well. You can choose the option which you want to attempt because you know certain options or certain questions better than the others. So you have this freedom over here. Also, let me revise what I told you in the last lecture, that English will have 3 types of questions. First one will be MCQs, that is multiple choice questions, which you all are familiar with, and these are the types of questions which are always there in most of the examinations like UGC-NET, PhD paper 1 entrance tests, UPSC prelims, etc. Also, there will be second type of questions. The second type is multi-select question or multiple select question, that is MSQs. So in MSQs or the multiple select questions, there will be more than one option that is correct, and you have to choose not only just one option but more than one, that is 2 or maybe 3 options which are correct for a given question. The third type of question is subjective, means you have to write paragraph based answers for the questions given. And I repeat again, there will be options, so you can sit back, relax, think which you want to attempt and which you don't want to attempt, because many a time it happens even in university exams. Whenever sometimes I check the papers and I often see that students have written 2 or 3 pages, then they cut the pages down because suddenly they realize that no, this is not the answer which I want to write, or this is not the question which I want to attempt. The other question is better for me, and then they start writing the other questions answers, and thereby not able to manage time. So don't be a bad manager, be a good manager. Don't mismanage your mental energy during the examination. Think before writing, think before choosing the question which you want to write, because giving options is easy for the students. I acknowledge that for GATE, but then the point is that it also confuses you. Okay, so be rest assured that this is the question which I want to attempt. Now quickly come back to the syllabus of English. So it talks about the multi-genre literatures in English like poetry, novel, other forms of fiction and non-fiction prose, including drama and story. So remember, when it talks about multi-genre, you have to remember that multi-genre literature is not just about the individual literary genres like poetry or the novel or say drama. It is about the correlation which can be established between all these genres amongst the genres of English literature. And how is it established? Let me tell you an example. You all know about the dramatic poetry, right? Dramatic poetry, where drama influences poetry, a piece of poem. You know about the dramatic monologues written by poets, okay? Like you must have read the poem My Last Duchess. So My Last Duchess is an example where drama has influenced poetry because it is a form of dramatic monologue. Because monologue is not spoken in poetry, it is a form spoken in drama, right? However, it has influenced poetry. So that is why I told you that multi-genre literature does not mean the study of any kind of genre as its own individual existence. It talks about the interrelation amongst all the various kinds of literatures that we have in existence. Similarly, let's talk about novel. So apart from talking about novel as a genre and its history, the predecessors being the novella, the short forms of novel, and the novelette from the Italian tradition, we also have to talk about the fiction and non-fictitious novels, because there have been autobiographical or biographical novels. We have novels based on the series of letters called Pamela by Samuel Richardson. Okay, so we cannot forget these types of genres while talking about the multi-genre literatures, because Gate has already given us the hint that don't go by individual literatures only or literary forms only, go by the relations, establish a relativity between the various genres. So in the last lecture, I told my students that relativism is very important here. Go about relating, correlating, find the correlation between various genres. Okay, and if you have any issues, any problems, I'm there to help you. You can ask anytime. Now come to the next point, which is included in the first point only, but I think that we need to segregate it. It's 19th and 20th centuries literature. So 19th and 20th century literatures, Gate has chosen these two centuries basically because these are the two centuries. Till these points in time, English literature was already at its height. There was no need to introduce anything new in English literature. Okay, English literature had already gone through its critical phases. It had already seen the colonial times, the pre-colonial times. It had already seen the various criticisms of faced by the French culture. It had already seen the evolution in terms of its genres like poetry and novels. Stream of consciousness was dominating at the time of 20th century when we reached the modern forms of literature, that is novel. D.H. Lawrence came up with his own theory of novel, whereas Virginia Woolf and James Joyce, these groups of the modernists had to come up with their own stream of consciousness theory as far as novels are concerned. So almost all the genres came into their heights during the 19th and 20th centuries, and therefore we have the late romantics, the pre-Victorians, Victorians, and the modernists during this period of time. And we have to count on a few names which are indispensable. We cannot talk about these ages or English literature as a whole without noting down or quoting these authors. Remember, in UGC-NET also these names are very common, like Lord Byron, William Wordsworth. Although they are romantics, but their influences on the later periods are very important, and that is why I'm mentioning their names. Now come later on to the later periods. We have Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That is very important for the later romantic era, because at that point of time it introduces, or rather it reintroduces, the theory of sublime, the theory of sublimity in the novel Frankenstein. Okay, science was developing, and with this there was a criticism of science, of technology. So Frankenstein was written, and we also have the influence of the French Revolution of the previous century on this century, because French Revolution, when it started in 1789, it was already very late during that century. So it had its own influence in the 19th century, because the poets who were kids at that point of time could not write. Okay, this may sound funny, but this is real. They could not write. They heard the stories, and in the 19th century, when they were in their early 20s or 30s, they started writing about the French Revolution. Then come to the 20th century, we have names like T.S. Eliot, known for his Wasteland, which had an influence by the Indian tradition, or you can say the entire Eastern or the Asiatic tradition. He ends wasteland with Sanskrit words, and that is